Hi everybody, it's Kathy here from Kathy Loves a Scrap, and I'm back again today with my second audition layout for Scrapbook Fantasies, the beautiful paper that I get to work with for my trials. Scrapbook Fantasies Creative Family is on Facebook, and this is where we showcase our work, and this is the layout I've created today using the Magical Memories paper range, and it is just simply gorgeous to work with. These papers have been designed by Alicia Redshaw, and they are just amazing. So I'm going to start with just some white cardstock that is also from Scrapbook Fantasies, and this paper here, which is Magical Memories number 6, and I'm actually going to be using the side there. So I'm using the cutouts from that side, and I'm using the wood grain there. I'm also using this one here, which is the B side, and it's the wreath, and it just screams to be used. And it's the B side of this one, which is the Magical Memories number 4. Now, I do use some of the daisies on this side. I fussy cut them out and I use them on the layout, and I will use that paper in another layout further down the track. So as you can see, I've gone ahead and I've done a lot of fussy cutting. I have these two photos, which were my daughter's bridal shower photos over 12 months ago. I'm just going through the pile and doing them as they come, but these papers lent themselves beautifully. So there's all the fussy cuts, and I've also got some cutouts from the range. As you can see, all those leaves I fussy cut out, and I'm going to use them on here. I have the tea cut from the cutout range. I'm also going to use these lavender bushes. And I've got some bees from the previous layout that I had fussy cut out but didn't use, and then I've got that Sentiment Precious, and I'm going to put all of these together with this amazing wreath. Now look at this wreath, it's just gorgeous. It's so delicate and it's so fine that it just screams to be cut out. So I've already started, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my craft knife and I'm actually going to go round and cut it out of the page. So a good tip and a trick that I learnt with these knives to keep them super sharp is to use your knife sharpening tools that you have for your carving knives at home and sharpen your blade, and it just slices through these papers like butter. And as you can see, I don't have to go over them multiple times. I'm just going through with one slice, and I'm going around the leaves carefully, and I'm cutting this wreath. Now, as you can see, it's lifting up nice and easily, and I wanted to use it, but I'm not using the whole wreath. I'm taking half of it. So I've used my pencil here to cut out the center. So I'm going again, this time I'm doing the inside of the wreath, and I'm taking out all of that paper on the inside, and you'll see why in a moment, because I'm going to overlay it onto the wood grain. Now this wreath is so delicate that it just screams for you to cut it out and use it in this way. And it is on the B side of the paper, which goes to show that all sides of Alicia's work are usable for layouts, and they are so delicate and so pretty, like that's a good word for them, pretty, that they make a layout just pop. So I'm carefully cutting out the internal part of this wreath, and I'm going to lift it out so that when it sits on the page I have half the wreath cut out and half not, which is fine because you'll see how that works when I put it all together. Now I'm going down that line and I'm just lifting that whole section out, and look at that, isn't it just divine? So just to add a little bit more interest to the wreath and to make it really pop off the page, I'm cutting out sections in between. So I'm going through the leaf sections and I'm cutting out the papers in between to create peekaboos. And this is, important in giving that airy feel to the page and the airy feel to the wreath. It's like it's looking through, like you're looking through the wreath that's hanging with the intricate vines there. So this does take a little bit of time, but it's well worth the process, and you just need to be patient as you're doing it. And that's why I say a really sharp blade makes all the difference, because it just allows you to get in between the boughs and the leaves and the vines and cut out all that dead space to allow for the peekaboo moments in the wreath. And I think they add a nice touch to the page. As I said, I'm in love with this paper. This paper is just gorgeous. It's such good quality, and being Australian made for Australian scrapbookers, and the world of course, but Australian made is just amazing. And Alicia's work is just very, very eye captivating, and that pops off the pages, and it's something that is unique and I think very Australian. And yeah, it's products that should be purchased and used and promoted worldwide, I think. Very good quality here. So as you can see, I'm almost at the point that I've cut out enough of this wreath that I have enough peekaboos that you can see that it's flowing and it's airy. And it's like looking through the leaves on a branch of a tree. And you can see patches through the leaves where it's opened up. So I'm just doing the last little bits here. I could have gone and done them all, but I didn't. I've left some, but that's to give that feel like a real tree. Now, as you can see, I'm going to put that wood grain panel in underneath. So I'm using the white cardstock here to be my framing. I'm cutting off the rest of that strip, the branding strip, and I'm trimming it down so that I'm going to have a 1/4 inch border all the way around my page. Now I'm going to gut the center of this because I use the white for my photo mounting, and it's just that little bit of a pop of white to break up the color and draw your eye to the photo. But look at that wood grain. Isn't the colors in it amazing? I just need a full sheet of that, I think. It's just beautiful. And I like it that it's got the green, like the moss is growing on the wood, so it's giving that rustic feel. And all I'm adding to it is the gathered twigs to go around the edge to just pop it a little bit. Not much, but just give it like a shading so that when it sits against the white, it's got that shaded effect and makes it stand out and popped. Look at that vine on the other side. I'm using that on another layout later down the track, so you need to keep your eyes open for that one when that comes. But at the moment, this wood grain just is divine. And as you can see, I am placing it all together now, and I'm not adhering the wreath on the second side just yet. And that's because I want to make sure that I'm not sealing it all the way down because I want some overlap. So I'm just going to glue in bits and pieces, and it's all not down yet because I will be doing tucks into it as the layout progresses. So there's the white that I gutted, and I'm just checking the size of my photos because I've trimmed them so that I got the right size for my mounting. And it's always nice to mount your photos. It pops them off your design, and it draws your eye to the photo. And of course, that's the whole purpose of our layouts, is to capture the moment in our photos to tell the story behind. Now, as I said, this was my daughter's kitchen tea, her bridal shower. We had a high tea in a tea house, and it was just beautiful because it was just before Easter last year, and they had it all set up beautifully with all the flowers and the Easter decorations, and it was just lovely. And so these papers just blend perfectly with it. So what I'm doing now is I'm cutting down the daisy. So I'm using, none of it goes to waste, I'm using it all. And I'm turning it into a fishtail banner, which I'm going to put up into the top corner. And that's so that I can build the first of my clusters. And I always try to build 3 clusters because the triangle draws the eye around the page. And I'm using the fishtail banner here with that daisy paper, and I'm just going to now trim off a bit of the lilac from the other side. And all of this came from this one piece of paper that I've been using where I've cut the wreath out of. So I'm going to just edge that with the gathered twigs again, and I'm going to pop that on the top banner just to give it a bar across to hold it in place and to layer up my extra cutouts that I want to use. So I've just put all the leaves out, all of the cutouts, all of the fussy cutting that I'm going to use on this page, and you'll see that I build my clusters And there's no direct pattern to it. All of these come together accordingly based on playing with the different fussy cuts. And so I'm layering them up. Some of them are popping up with pop tape, and the reason I'm doing that is to give dimension and to give shadowing, which adds an eye-pleasing effect to the layout. I'm using a cup there from the printed cutouts, which are always helpful and a perfect addition to any collection, and these ones are just beautiful. And because it was her bridal shower tea, that's a perfect addition and suits the layout nicely, and it picks up the pink in her sash there. Alright, so I'm slowly building up around my wreath. I've added the flowers up to the top cluster, as you can see, and I'm now putting in these lavender bush cutouts, which are pre-printed and pre-cut, which is perfect, and they're just building up that cluster and bulking it up and adding more detail and drawing the eye into that corner. I put in, as you can see, leaves, and then I take them out and I add more leaves and I take them out, and it's just about layering up the correct elements to build that layout so that it looks perfect. I'm adding in some gold flowers which were left over from a previous fussy cutting session, and they just complement this as well, and it's drawing that eye down into that corner. So now I have a cluster in the top right and I have a cluster in the bottom left, and so I need to do something to make the third cluster. The wreath is tying it all together in that round circular motion, but it's subtle. It's making your eye roam the page as well. So I'm just making sure that it all ties together. So what I've got is these little leaves that I fussy cut out, and I'm having them like falling from the wreath and drawing your eye down the page. And I just said, like you see there, I'm playing around where the elements belong on the page, and there's no planning. I just thought, where am I going to add? I've put in the butterflies. I'm adding in a couple of bees from a previous cutting out session, and they fit perfectly in this because it's a spring feel. Now I'm using the leaves and some more daisies, which I actually have to fussy cut from the wreath paper, and I'm adding that to build this third cluster up here in the top left-hand corner. And now that will be my third cluster, which is the triangle, and the eye will now easily roam around that page, which you will see once it's completed. I'm just going to bulk up the bottom here and tying it in with the white daisies from the paper of the wreath on the opposite side, on the A side. As I said, I will use them. And I have the leaves falling down. I'm just going to now just make sure that everything's stuck down nicely so that there's no sticky uppy bits and no catching when it goes into the album. And that's really important as well. So you can see, isn't that wreath just divine? I'm in love with that wreath. I think I need to use it again. So there's a daisy up there that I'm not totally happy yet. That cluster's a little bit bare, so I've gone back and I've fussy cut out some more daisies just to top it up, as you can see, and I built it up just a little bit more so it has enough bulk for the eye to see and enough detail. That one I'm just going to put in. Doesn't matter when you're layering up a cluster if you go over the top of the elements, because that just adds interest as well. So you can see that that first daisy I've put in, I'm now going over the top of, so that's now like a layered effect that you would see in a real garden, in a real bunch of flowers, and it ties into that corner there. So that has now filled that corner, and that cluster now looks healthy. So I have making sure that everything is down and stuck perfectly. I've got another leaf here because I've just noticed that they're not odd, and I like to have odd numbers in my elements because nature is, everything in nature is odd, and that relates to the Fibonacci number. And so I've now added in the leaves so they fall down. My clusters are all in place, and I'm very happy with how that has come together. Now for the finishing touches. Remember, no layout is finished without a bit of a border, so I have gotten a green pen which ties into the colours of the moss on that wood grain, and I'm just doing a little bit of faux stitching. I've added in the date, And I've gotten my clear stickles, which will dry beautifully and add a little sparkle to the page. And I'm adding those to the center of the daisies and the flowers. I'm doing the bee wings and the butterflies, and it just adds that little bit of sparkle or a zhuzh to the page. And I make sure I get all of the flowers, because you don't want to leave one out or it looks silly. And then I just take a few minutes to have a look. So when you're doing it, just stop and appreciate. So you can see there's my top left-hand cluster, my bottom left-hand cluster, bringing it over in the layering. Look at that wreath. Isn't it just beautiful peeking out there? And then the top right-hand cluster. So I have 3 clusters for my photos. The wreath draws the eye around the page. Make sure everything is stuck down so there's no sticking up bits. And there it is coming together, but it's just a little bit missing. So I go back with the stickles and I add another bit to that center of that flower there that I missed, and then I highlight the tea bag with the stickles, and where the gold is on the cup I'm also going to trace with a rim of stickles. So that's going to look very special and add it all tied in together. And this is a lovely, delicate, very pretty page that came together using just all of those elements from the Magical Memories paper range. And look at that. If you're interested, you need to go to Scrapbook Fantasies online and purchase. It's just divine. So I'm so lucky to have been able to create with this. This is my audition layout number 2. Thank you for looking and watching. As you can see, the clusters there are just beautiful. The elements all tie together and marry beautifully. I hope there was something here that inspired you, something that would challenge you to try. If so, don't forget to give me a like and wish me luck as I try out for my Scrapbook Fantasies Creative Team Audition. I'm Kathy from Kathy Loves to Scrap, from down under, just an Aussie mum scrapping away. You can follow me on Instagram where all my layouts can be found, and I really do appreciate the time you've taken to watch. Happy scrapping until next time.